A Tuesday morning in Texas. No cameras, no red carpet, no headline waiting to be written. Just a woman standing in a kindergarten classroom, looking at 20 small desks she would never sit behind again. 6 years. 6 years of lesson plans and finger painting and nap time. 6 years of being someone else's steady hand, someone else's safe presence, someone else's reliable Tuesday morning. And then, quietly, without a stage or a spotlight, without a viral moment or a single dramatic scene, Bianca Rodriguez made a decision that most people talk about at dinner parties, but almost never actually do. She quit. No farewell tour, no grand statement. She packed her life into whatever would fit in a car and moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, with nothing waiting for her but a maybe. Not a contract, not a guarantee. A maybe. The world didn't know her name yet. It knew her by the name she'd built in secret in bedrooms with a laptop and a cheap microphone. On SoundCloud, where the numbers were small but the devotion was real. In Dallas dive bars, where strangers sang her own words back to her before she'd ever sold a single record. BeMyFiasco, a stage name that promised catastrophe on the surface and delivered something else entirely underneath: control, ownership. A woman who decided that if her life was going to be a mess, it would at least be a mess of her own making. Dallas, Texas. Bianca came from a musical bloodline, though not the kind that gets you a record deal by default. Her mother sang gospel with her sister's harmony learned in church pews, not vocal booths. Her grandfather, on her father's side, was a nomadic Tejano singer with roots reaching back into Mexico, a man who performed wherever the work was, not wherever the cameras were. Music, for Bianca, wasn't a decision. It was inheritance. It was already in the blood before she ever chose it for herself. But inheritance doesn't pay rent, and dreams don't cover a mortgage. So she became a teacher. Kindergarten. 6 years of shaping other people's children during the day while her own voice waited patiently in the wings for evenings and weekends. She sang on the side, the way so many artists do, before the world catches up to them. Open mics, local shows, whatever stage would have her. She built a following the hard way. No algorithm boost, no label machine, no industry shortcut. Just her voice, in local venues, in a city that already had its own deep R&B lineage to live up to, and no shortage of talented singers competing for the same small stages. And then there was Los Angeles, the chapter she doesn't shy away from, even though it didn't go the way the movies would have written it. She moved out west, chasing the industry's center of gravity, the place where everyone said the real opportunities lived. 2 weeks. That's all it took to learn a hard lesson. She ended up living with a stranger she'd met on Facebook Marketplace, in a situation she'd later describe as an unforgettable experience that did not end in her favor. She left Los Angeles with no deal, no breakthrough, no viral clip. She left with a story, instead one she eventually turned into a song called Two-Car Garage, a record built from the wreckage of a risk that didn't pan out. Not every gamble pays off immediately. Some gambles just teach you what to avoid the next time you're brave enough to try again. Where I Left You, 11 tracks, released in the back half of 2021, after years of waiting, years of writing, years of a city Dallas believing in her, long before the rest of the country even knew her name. The album pulled from neo-soul, jazz, hip-hop, and old-fashioned R&B, a sound she herself described as rooted in the late 1990s and reaching further back from there. Nostalgic in its bones, but never a copy of anything that came before it. The label behind it, the Foreign Exchange Music, founded by the Grammy-nominated duo Font and Nicolay. Fonte didn't just sign her, he became a genuine creative partner. Someone determined to push her sound beyond North Texas and into a national conversation that, up to that point, hadn't been paying attention. Track by track, she wrote her own life into the record. Caramel became the first single released off the project, 3004, end quote. Single record, end quote. Caramel became the first single released off the project, end quote. Bad Dream followed an up-tempo record she said was inspired by a few toxic relationships from her past. The kind of song that turns old pain into something you can dance to. Thinking About It, a duet with Darian Brockington, built on the kind of old-fashioned R&B chemistry that doesn't happen by accident. Closer to the back end of the track list, one of two special offerings she and her team placed there deliberately. She has talked about the emotional core of the project directly, that the album represented a period of finding herself, of leaving behind relationships, people, and old habits. A title, Where I Left You, that doubled as both a farewell and a marker of exactly how far she'd already come. There is no group behind BeMyFiasco, no four other voices to share the weight of a bad night or a slow year, no built-in safety net of a fan base inherited from bandmates. Every writing credit, every vocal take, every decision about what the music should sound like hers alone, or hers to negotiate one collaborator at a time, one relationship at a time, one favor, and one late-night studio session at a time. That kind of independence is also a kind of exposure. When Robert Glasper and Miles Davis's Everything is Beautiful album needed a voice for the track Violets in 2016, produced by Ninth Wonder, she was the one who stepped into that room. When Erykah Badu's band, RC and the Grits, needed someone to write and arrange vocals for two songs, Anxiety and Give Me Your Heart, on their album The Feel, she did the work, and it earned her a spot on the band's US tour. When Lala Hathaway needed guest vocals for her album Vanta Black, she answered that call too. When Little Brother needed her for May, The Lord Watch in 2019, reuniting her with Font, she showed up for that as well. Each credit was a door. Each door required her to prove herself again, from zero, with no group name, no chart history, and no built-in industry credibility opening it for her in advance. She earned every single one of those rooms on the strength of her own voice and nothing else. 3 years passed between her debut album and her next full-length project. That's a long silence in an industry built on constant content, weekly singles, and algorithm-feeding release schedules. But in October of 2024, she returned with Pretty Little Love 8 tracks, released via Plus E Music and EMPIRE, an 8-track journey through love, lust, and self-discovery. Fonte returned as a collaborator. Carlita Durand joined her on the project as well. It wasn't a rushed cash-in designed to capitalize on her debut's goodwill. It was a woman taking exactly as much time as she needed to say the next true thing on her own schedule, regardless of what the industry calendar demanded of her. In between those two albums, she wasn't idle for a single moment. She contributed to Rory's I Thought It'd Be Different. She lent her voice and pen to rapper Big Pooh's To Dream in Color. She showed up on Odyssey's To What End. She helped her longtime collaborator, Fonte, score music for the second season of Sherman's Showcase on IFC, moving from music into television scoring without missing a beat. She became, without ever chasing the spotlight for it directly, one of the most quietly relied upon voices working in independent soul and R&B music today. The kind of artist other artists call when they need something done right. Drop a comment right now. Tell us, would you walk away from a stable job 6 years deep, with benefits, with a routine, with a future you could see clearly laid out in front of you to chase something with absolutely no guarantee attached to it? Would you move across the country on nothing but a maybe? Would you survive a bad Los Angeles gamble, watch it collapse completely, and still come back swinging instead of quitting for good? Think about what it actually costs to build a career with no group standing behind you, no safety net, no built-in fan base of 5 voices, splitting the risk 5 ways. Every single credit BeMyFiasco carries. Glasper, Badu's band, Hathaway, Font, Little Brother, she earned one relationship at a time, with nothing but her own voice as collateral against the possibility of complete failure. How many people talk about quitting the safe thing and never actually do it? How many people stay in the classroom, stay in the cubicle, stay in the comfortable routine because the maybe feels too risky to bet an entire life on? Comment below. Tell us honestly if you'd have had her nerve or if you'd have stayed in that Dallas classroom, telling yourself, next year would be the year you finally made the leap. The word came eventually, after years of unglamorous, uncredited, behind-the-scenes work, Grammy-nominated, not for a viral single, not for an overnight hit that an algorithm happened to favor for 2 weeks, for the slow, collaborator-by-collaborator accumulation of work from a songwriter and vocalist who kept showing up in rooms with people who mattered: Glasper, Badu, Hathaway, Font, until the industry's most recognized award body finally noticed the pattern that fans and fellow musicians had already known about for years. And the work never stopped moving forward. In early 2026, she paired with Finnish producer-artist Misha on a new single called Back to Myself, pulled from their upcoming joint project, Aura Gold. The record has been described as the moment everything goes quiet, the lights dimming, the crowd thinning, a richly immersive sound built at the intersection of alternative R&B, soul, and new funk. Misha brought a polished, jazz-minded sensibility, shaped by his own work with Lala Hathaway, Amber Navran, and Nate Smith. BeMyFiasco brought the depth of a Grammy-nominated songwriter with roots running through the foreign exchange and the extended orbit of Robert Glasper's collaborators. The two of them have reportedly been quietly building this shared musical world since 2023. Long before either artist announced it publicly, a reset for both of them, with Back to Myself standing at the center of that reset. Critics and writers have placed her sound in the lineage of Anita Baker, D'Angelo, Music Soul Child, Chaka Khan, and SWV, the very influences she has named as her own. Dallas writers have gone even further, placing her directly alongside the city's own deep R&B history. Jazimia Horn, LaVoice, and Erykah Badu herself, an artist she would go on to actually collaborate with years after being compared to her. BeMyFiasco isn't chasing a chart record. She was never trying to break a record at all. She's chasing something slower, quieter, and, in its own way, far harder to fake than a viral number. A body of work built collaborator by collaborator, city by city, without the machinery of a major label pushing her name in front of the world, before she was actually ready for that kind of attention. The next project is already in motion. Aura Gold is coming. A full-length statement built on years of quiet trust between two artists who understood each other from the start. The teacher who once stood in front of 20 kindergarten desks, who quit 6 years of stability for nothing but a maybe, who survived a bad 2-week gamble in Los Angeles and turned it into a song instead of a regret, is still building one credited verse, one guest feature, one late-night studio session at a time. What would you have chosen, the guarantee of the classroom or the maybe of the stage? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe for the next story in this series. Subscribe now.